Good day to everyone. I am Joan from the Indigenous Peoples' Rights International. It is an honor for me to join this conference on climate change, justice, and human rights. Let me begin with the simple, urgent truth. We cannot solve the climate crisis if we do not confront its root causes. According to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, global temperatures have already risen by approximately 1.1 centigrade above industrial levels. And we are on track to exceed 1.5 within the next decade without drastic changes. At the same time, the United Nations Environment Program reports that climate national commitments put us on path towards 2.5 centigrade to 2.9 centigrade of warming this century. This is not just a number. It means more intense heat waves, floods, and wildfires, food and water scarcity for millions, and displacement of entire communities. And yet, despite these warnings, emissions continue to rise. Why? Because the crisis is deeply rooted in how our economies function. The wealthiest 10% of the global population are responsible for nearly 50% of global emissions, while the poorest 50% contribute only about 12%. At the same time, the global material extraction has more than tripled since 1970, driven largely by consumption in high-income countries. Europe plays a significant role here. While progress has been made in renewable energy, Europe still has high consumption footprint, relying heavily on imported resources and energy-intensive production systems. So the issue is not only about energy transition. It is about transforming systems of production, consumption, and power. And here, Europe plays a critical role. Though through emerging frameworks on corporate due diligence and sustainable finance, Europe has the opportunity to set global standards. But this must be rights-based standards, not simply risk management tools. Otherwise, they will fail to prevent harm. Finally, we must rethink what we mean by innovation. Innovation is not just technological. It is also social, cultural, and ecological. Indigenous knowledge systems developed over generations offer critical insights into resilience, sustainability, and living in balance with nature. Today, we are seeing massive investments in renewable energy and green technologies. Global investments in the energy transition reach over $1.7 trillion in recent years. But we must ask, what kind of transition are we financing? Because while renewable energy expands, so does extraction. Demand for critical minerals, such as lithium, cobalt, and nickel, is projected to increase by up to 4 to 6 times by 2040. More than 50% of critical minerals are found in indigenous territories and nearby, which is now causing social conflicts, destruction of indigenous food systems, livelihoods, and environmental degradation. At the same time, climate finance remains deeply unequal. Only a fraction of climate finance reaches frontline communities and actors and directly, despite the fact that they are best placed to implement effective adaptation and mitigation solutions. We are facing fundamental imbalance. Those most affected by climate change are the least supported in addressing it. This brings us to the question of justice. Climate change is not only an environmental issue, it is also a human rights issue. In fact, it affects the right to food, water, health, housing, and even life itself. And when local leaders and communities take legitimate actions to protect their rights and the environment, they are being criminalized, attacked, and in some cases, even killed. At the same time, we must recognize that solutions already exist, particularly at the local level. Across the world, communities are developing nature-based solutions for ecosystems restoration, community-led renewable energy systems, climate-resilient agriculture, and early warning systems based on local knowledge. These are often low-cost, high-impact solutions, yet they remain underfunded and overlooked. This is where shift is urgently needed. First, we must reduce demand, not only change supply. Energy transition cannot succeed without addressing overconsumption, particularly in high-income regions. Second, we must redirect finance as a matter of justice to those suffering the most, yet have the least carbon footprint. Climate finance must be accessible, equitable, and directly available to communities on the ground. Third, we must ensure accountability. Business and financial institutions must go beyond voluntary commitments. They must be held accountable for environmental and human rights impacts across the value chain. Europe has a key role here through its leadership on corporate due diligence and sustainable finance frameworks. But these frameworks must be robust, enforceable, and grounded on human rights. Finally, we must redefine innovation. Innovation is not only about advanced technologies. It is also about thinking and changing relationships with nature, with economies, and with each other. Let us move beyond narrow approaches to climate action. Let us address the drivers of the crisis. Let us support those in the front lines, and let us build solutions that are not only effective, but truly just. Because climate justice is not only about protecting the planet. It is about protecting peoples, cultures, and the future of humanity. I wish you a fruitful conference, and thank you.